Hi kiddos! Back with more of our book today. We're on chapter 3. This one is told by Parker Elias. I loved the sound the pickup truck makes when the motor roars to life. It's even cooler now with that little muffler problem, but that'll only last until Mom and Dad save up the money to get it fixed. Even without the extra noise though, it's still awesome. I looked down at the start button. That's what it looks like. Looks like it says Negan Rats Pots. That's what I saw the first time anyway. Now I know what it really says. Engine. Stop. Start. That's what reading is for me. I see all the letters, but they're kind of a mishmash. Like my class at school, which is SCS8, although it looks like SS8C, or S8SC, or even CS8S. Messes me up at first a little until I figure out where I have to go, and then it doesn't matter what order the letters and numbers are in. The pickup jounces over the packed dirt of the driveway before bumping onto the paved road where our property ends. Our farm is right outside town, so I haven't gone very far when a police car pulls up beside me. The cop gives me a thorough once-over with his eyes. I'm used to it. I'm kind of small for my age, so I look like a 12-year-old out for a joyride. I thought that new girl's eyes would pop out of her head when I jumped down from the pickup on the first day of school. Or maybe that's the expression she gives everybody who knocks her book bag halfway to the moon. Let's set the record straight. I'm 14. They don't let you drive any younger than that, no matter what your special situation is. It's okay, though. The police around here all know me. The cop rolls down his window and peers into the flatbed of the pickup, taking note of several bushel baskets of fresh tomatoes. You're just taking those over to the farmer's market, right, Parker? He calls. Right, officer. And straight to school after that? I shake my head. First I have to pick up Grams. The cop frowns. Grams? My grandmother, I explain. I have to take her to the senior center, then school. That's why I have a driver's license in 8th grade. It's a provisional license, although to me it usually looks more like... See how all the letters are all scrambled up there? I'm allowed to drive the pickup so long as it's for farm business or for Grams, who's pretty old and sometimes kind of confused. No offense. My folks both work crazy hours on the farm, so I'm the only one who's free to pick her up at her apartment and take her to the center, where she hangs out all day. Then I drive to school, and after school I pick her up and take her back to our house for dinner. She doesn't live with us, though. She refuses to give up her own place. My independence, she calls it. The law says I can do all this because running a farm is considered a hardship. It's pretty stupid because we actually prefer living outside the city and having tons of open space when everybody else is stuck on a little postage stamp of grass. Plus, we don't have livestock, so we don't have to do any of the really gross farm things, like sticking your arm up the butt of a sick cow. I've only seen that on TV, but hard pass. I drop off the tomatoes at the market, watching the clock impatiently while Mr. Sardo weighs everything to the millionth of an ounce, then straight to Grams. She's waiting for me in the lobby of her apartment building, but she's wearing a winter coat, and it's like 80 degrees out. So I have to park, and we go upstairs to put away the coat, and by the time I return from the closet, she's in the kitchen warming up leftover meatloaf for me. But Grams, I'm going to be late for school. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, kiddo. I used to like it when she called me kiddo, but now I'm pretty sure it's because she can't remember my name. It bums me out. To be fair, she called me kiddo before she forgot my name, too. The difference is, now it's the only thing she calls me. I already had breakfast, I tell her. You want mashed potatoes with that? She asks. It won't take long. No thanks, this is fine. Obviously, I eat the meatloaf. It's actually pretty good. Grams can still cook, even though she's forgotten most other things. She's been knitting me a sweater for the past 3 years that she can't seem to finish. I've gotten a lot bigger in that time, but it's okay because so is the sweater. It's draped over the back of the couch, a mass of drop stitches, hanging strands in random colors. It looks like a giant psychedelic wool amoeba. I gulp down the food as fast as I can, but it still throws off the schedule. By the time I drop Grams at the senior center, I can already hear the bell ringing at school. With my grandmother, there's always something to slow you down. If it isn't meatloaf, then she's buttoned her blouse wrong, or she's wearing slippers instead of shoes, or she's waiting for Grandpa to come home, even though he died a long time ago. I'm used to being late. Grams is worth it. But it's my 4th time already, and it's only the first week of school. I barrel around the streets, busting the speed limit by a lot and blowing at least one stop sign. I screech into the school parking lot, leaving a small mark on the side of Mr. Sarsajan's BMW. Not good. Carefully, I back out and find another spot, this one on the opposite side of the lot. I pull my trusty can of scratch guard out of the glove compartment and rub the evidence off the front bumper. Then I work on the beamer a little. Not perfect, but it should keep Mr. S from noticing the damage long enough for him to have absolutely no idea where it might have come from. This is usually the part where my day starts to go downhill. I love getting to school, the driving and all that, but once I'm here, not so much. There's no problem with the building, and the teachers are okay, I guess. It just happens to be a place where I'm bad at everything that's considered important. It's a long walk to room 117. I take it slow because who wants to rush somewhere you hate? I'm already late, though, so I open the door and walk inside. Before I know it, my feet slide out from under me, and wham! I'm flat on my back on the floor. It gets a big laugh and scattered applause from the 6 kids who are already there. The only person who doesn't react is our teacher, Mr. Kermit. He never lifts his face from the New York Times crossword puzzle, except occasionally to take a sip from a humongous coffee cup. And that's not just today. He's like that all the time. Yesterday, when Barnstorm chucked one of his crutches and shattered the globe, the teacher didn't so much as flinch, not even when the Horn of Africa bounced off the side of his head. You could probably set off an atomic bomb on his desk, and he'd never notice. I scramble up, but when I turn back to the doorway to see what tripped me, I go down again, on my face this time. I can smell the floor, and taste it a little. There's butter all over it. Who greased the floor? I howl. The kids laugh louder, enough to penetrate the cone of silence and capture Mr. Kermit's attention. He glances up, sees me flopping like a fish out of water, and quickly goes back to his puzzle. If he's not the worst teacher in the world, he's definitely bottom 5. Most embarrassing of all, Kiana has to rescue me. She's the girl whose backpack I hit with the truck. She hauls me far enough from the buttered area that I can stand upright again. My shoes are still a little slippery, but at least I can walk to my desk. Kiana turns to the rest of the class. Who did that? Raheem, who's fast asleep, lifts his head off the desk and looks around like a deer in headlights. Did what? Let it go, I murmur red-faced. Why should you? She demands. Somebody buttered the doorway. Mr. Kermit's not going to stand for that. An absent-minded, comes from the direction of the teacher's desk. Shh. I drag my broken body into my chair. Who's the mystery prankster who almost put me in intensive care? Plenty of possibilities in this class. Barnstorm, the injured sports star. He gets away with everything. At least he did until they put him in SCS 8. Aldo, the jerk who flies off the handle every time the wind blows. Elaine. I sneak a look over my shoulder at the scariest girl in the 8th grade. Oh, please don't let it be her. Elaine rhymes with pain. I'll probably never find out who buttered the floor. If it was Elaine, I don't want to. When I glance up, Mr. Kermit is standing in front of me. At first, I'm flattered that he's come over to make sure I don't have a concussion. But no, he places a worksheet on my desk and wordlessly returns to his crossword puzzle. That's what we do in this special self-contained 8th grade class. At the beginning of each period, Mr. Kermit hands us each a worksheet. No one does them. At least that's how it was at the beginning. There were a lot of paper airplanes sailing around the room for the first few days. I figured Mr. Kermit would get mad, but he never made a peep about them. So the airplanes stopped. What was the point of making them if you can't get a rise out of the teacher? Eventually, it got so boring that the only possible thing to do was the worksheet. It's kind of hard for me, though, because the letters get all jumbled up. Even if it's math, they never just ask what's 5 plus 3. They have to make it into a story about 5 brown rabbits and 3 white rabbits having a rabbit cotillion. That's where I got lost. Cotillion looks like licit loon to me. I'm hunched over my paper, trying to make heads or tails of what seems to be unbreakable code when, at the desk beside me, Kiana sets down her pen and peers at my paper, which is as untouched as the minute I got it. You haven't started yet? She hisses. Sure I have, I reply defensively. She isn't sold. What question are you on? 1. I shoot back. I'm taking it slow, okay? I return to work, staring at the letters, willing them to arrange themselves into a form that makes sense to me. I guess I look like a scientist peering into a microscope because she blurts, You can't read. Yes, I can, I say defensively. I'm just pacing myself. She reaches over and plants a finger on question 1. What does that say? There's no talking in class, I tell her. You want to get us in trouble? Mr. Kermit takes a long, loud slurp of his giant coffee. Read it, she orders. And I don't. It's not that I can't, but it would take time. I don't feel like it, I mumble. Parker, she urges, this is stupid. You can get help with this. You just have to tell the teacher, but nobody can help you if they don't know there's a problem. My eyes find Mr. Kermit. His attention never wavers from his crossword puzzle, even though Raheem and Barnstorm are sword fighting with rulers, and Aldo leaves the room altogether. If I have to depend on Mr. Kermit for help, I'm going to be older than he is before I get any of this. Chapter 4. This now it's told by Aldo Braff. The first time I saw Kiana, I knew she was going to be a pain in my neck. It was the first day of school, the marshmallow roast. She was the new girl, so I was nice. I took a pencil, speared a marshmallow, and made room for her around the fire. Talk about rude. She refused to take it because it was unsanitary. That's the last time I try to be a gentleman. You know those bossy types who think they know everything? That's Kiana. One time I'm in the cafeteria when she comes up to me and tells me to stop kicking the candy machine. If I'm kicking the candy machine, I'm doing it for a very good reason. Who put her in charge of the world? She grabs my arm and hauls me away from the machine. What's wrong? I wanted a Zagnut, I tell her in fury. It gave me a Mounds. So? Man, she really isn't from around here. At Greenwich Middle School, everybody knows 2 things about me. 1, when I want something, nothing stands in my way. And 2, I don't like coconut. I look around. There's dead silence in the cafeteria, but nobody's eyes are on me. They know better than to get between me and a Zagnut bar. All except Kiana. Maybe all Californians are like that. They can't mind their own business. She asks, and if you keep on kicking it, will the Zagnut come out? Maybe, I say stubbornly. She shrugs. Then go ahead. But here's the thing. I don't want to kick it anymore. She's ruined it for me. The worst part is she's an SCS 8, so I never get away from her. We spend the whole day in room 117 except for lunch in the cafeteria and phys ed, which is in the gym with a couple of other classes. The only surefire place to avoid her is the boys' room. She hasn't followed me in there. So far. Our teacher, Mr. Kermit, is probably in his 50s, but he looks about 900. Actually, he looks like he's dead already, hunched over his desk, his eyes half closed. He never moves a muscle. It's hard to tell if he's even breathing. I'm amazed he isn't swinging from the light fixture for all the coffee the guy drinks. Mostly, he's working on a really complicated crossword puzzle. He hates my guts. At least I think he does. All the teachers in this dump have it out for me, so why should he be any different? He's dumb, too. He doesn't even realize that we all call him Ribbit. There's this nut job in our class, Mateo Hendrickson. He pointed out that the only Kermit he ever heard of was Kermit the Frog. Turns out Mateo's a fan of the Muppets, not just Star Trek, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Halo, and every comic book ever printed. Anyway, a nickname was born. Every morning when the teacher walks in, late as usual, we start ribbiting. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Mr. Kermit doesn't even notice. Either that or he thinks it's a compliment. As a teacher, he stinks. Not that I've had any good ones. He never gives lessons. In fact, he hardly ever speaks out loud. He just passes around these stupid worksheets all day long. Boring doesn't even begin to describe it. With a normal teacher, if you don't do the work, you get in trouble. Not Ribbit. He acts like he couldn't care less if we do his worksheets or not. I've turned in every assignment and he's never graded a single one or handed it back. Kiana complains. What's he doing with them? Maybe he's eating them, I suggest. He's weird enough. She rolls her eyes at me. She's annoying, but it's not like the other kids in SC8 are any better. There's Parker Elias, who has to be the dumbest person in the whole school. Remember the kid in first grade who, when he got picked to read aloud, everybody else wanted to drink bleach? Well, Parker still reads that way today. 1 word at a time, at the speed of molasses, sounding out every letter. This is the idiot they give a special driver's license to. No one is safe. There's Barnstorm Anderson, super jock. Super jerk would be more like it, but I guess he's both. He's an unstoppable running back, an amazing point guard, and a lights-out pitcher, which is why the school gives him an automatic get-out-of-jail-free card. That makes me mad. Why should scoring touchdowns mean you get special treatment? But here's the thing. Last spring, Barnstorm blew out his knee. He's on crutches now, banned from sports for a whole year, and by that time, he won't be in middle school anymore. So all the teachers have suddenly started to notice that the last time he turned in a homework assignment was never. That's the kind of person who lands in our class. Like Elaine Ostrover, who sits in the back row. She has to be 6'2" and as solid as an oak tree. She hardly ever opens her mouth, but when she does, her voice comes out a low rumble, like a subwoofer. Kiana asked me about her. That's Elaine, I reply. Rhymes with pain. She frowns. Everybody says that. Rhymes with pain. What does it mean? You don't want to mess with Elaine, I advise her seriously. Last year, she headbutted this kid down the stairs because he was looking at her funny. Wiped out like 15 people. The line outside the nurse's office stretched halfway to the cafeteria. If that's not pain, I don't know what is. Kiana checks out Elaine's head, which looks like one of those giant statues on that island from the cover of our world geography textbook. She has to register her head as a deadly weapon with the FBI, I put in. Kiana skewers me with a sharp glance, so I say, well, not really, but she definitely tore the door off one of the bathroom stalls and used it to crush the laminating machine. I add, I wasn't there, but everybody knows it. You're scared of her, Kiana decides. I'm not scared. I can handle Elaine. Rhymes with pain. If you don't say the full name, it increases your chances of being the next victim. I just don't want to get in trouble for fighting, that's all. She nods. Because you're the big expert at not getting in trouble? By the time I realize that I'm mad at her for saying that, she's on the other side of the room, and the chance to yell at her is lost forever. Raheem Barclay is supposed to be this amazing artist, although all I've ever seen him do is doodle. And I guess his doodles are pretty good if you're into that kind of thing. He drew one of Ribbit that's a dead ringer for our teacher. The sunken cheeks and dark circles around the eyes. Just the right amount of gray in the thinning hair. Raheem blew one part of it. He drew the coffee mug too big, almost the size of a trash barrel. Maybe that's how he ended up in SCS 8, which isn't exactly for geniuses. It doesn't help that Raheem's stepdad is in a rock band. They practice all night, so Raheem sleeps most of the day. One day, Mateo welcomes me to class with a whole story in this deep, throat-clearing gibberish that sounds a lot like he's trying to spit out a bug he swallowed by mistake. I don't appreciate being messed with, especially when I'm not even sure how I'm being messed with. What did you say? I demand. It's a Klingon greeting, Mateo explains cheerfully. It means, may you die well. My eyes widen. You want me to die? The Klingons are a warlike race, Mateo says quickly. Dying in battle is an honor. They love that. But I don't. From now on, if you've got anything to say to me, say it in English, not some phony language. Klingon is not phony, Mateo cuts me off, outraged. It may have started out on Star Trek, but it's turned into a legitimate language with a dictionary and an alphabet. There are even regional accents depending on which part of the Klingon homeworld you come from. In the South, for example, he keeps talking, lecturing, clueless that my blood is boiling, and the other kids are laughing, like it's a big joke that this little creep is making fun of me. What's the matter with you? I shout at them. Doesn't anybody have my back? Kiana steps forward, struggling to keep a straight face. She reaches for my arm. Aldo, it's the last straw. That this California girl, who isn't even from around here, thinks I'm the entertainment. The soupy fog swirls around my head, tinged with orange, until I can actually feel the heat from it. I've got to get out of here before I explode, leaving bone fragments and bits of skin all over the walls of room 117. I hate this class! I pick up my backpack and hurl it through the open door, just as Mr. Kermit walks into the room. The heavy bag misses his head by about 1/4 of an inch. At that point, I'm so mad I don't even care. It's my white-hot haze. It would make no difference to me if the backpack knocks the teacher's block off and I get suspended, expelled, and banished from the town. I do notice, through my rage, that Ribbit doesn't flinch. Not even when I storm past him, slamming the door behind me hard enough to raise the school off its foundation. And just like that, I'm alone in the hall. Barely sure how I even got there. I slam my fist into a locker. It hurts, but I hope it hurts the locker even more. The locker is attached to the wall, and the wall is part of the school, and it's the school's fault that I'm so mad. I hit it a few more times with an open hand because that hurts a bit less. I don't feel better exactly. It's more like every blow lets off a little more steam, so the pressure inside my head goes down. I'm still ticked off, but I can live with it. I slump against the lockers, breathing hard. The guidance counselors say I have anger management problems. They don't know what they're talking about. I managed to get angry better than anybody else in the whole school. No problem. The door of room 115 opens, and this lady walks up to me. At first, I think she could be another 8th grader. That's how young she looks. But no, she's definitely an adult. And the way she takes hold of my wrist, gentle but with authority, screams teacher. I've never seen her before, so she must be new. Come with me. She knocks on the door of SCS 8. Mr. Kermit? I shoulder my backpack and stand behind her. We wait at the door, but there's no answer. He's probably in the middle of a puzzle, I offer in a subdued voice. Puzzle, she echoes. Like a crossword. Ribbit, Mr. Kermit is really into them. She knocks again and then opens the door. It sticks a little and she has to put her shoulders into it. I guess I slammed her really hard. She leads me inside. Kiana is looking right at me. I feel myself starting to get mad again, but only for a second. It doesn't usually happen twice in a row. Mr. Kermit, I'm Emma Fountain, the woman introduces herself. I have the class next door. So far this year, not a single thing has gotten a reaction out of Ribbit. The streak ends here. The puzzle forgotten, he rises to his feet really slowly, never taking his eyes off her. They're practically bugging out of his head. He blurts, I'd know you anywhere. She smiles, which makes her seem even younger. Mom said to tell you hi, but that's not why I'm here. She indicates me. Is this your student? Mr. Kermit looks blank. It hits me. He doesn't have a clue, even though I nearly took his head off with my backpack 90 seconds ago. My own teacher doesn't know me from Jack the Ripper. Of course it's your student, Kiana pipes up. It's Aldo. Well, he's making a lot of noise in the hall, Miss Fountain announces. That's not being a bucket filler. Mr. Kermit goggles. A what? A bucket filler is someone loving and caring who fills other people's invisible buckets with good wishes and positive reinforcement that make them feel special. She regards Aldo disapprovingly. Someone who creates a disturbance and makes it impossible for other children to learn is not a bucket filler. That's a bucket dipper. Suddenly, I realize what she's talking about. It's from this picture book that's supposed to teach little kids to be nice to each other. It's really big, in about first grade. It's an elementary school thing, Mr. Kermit, Kiana supplies helpfully. Just because this is middle school doesn't mean we shouldn't treat one another with respect, Miss Fountain says earnestly. It worked for my kindergarten class last year, and we should have higher expectations for children who are even older. Right, Mr. Kermit? I wait for our teacher to give her the brush off. Good old Ribbit could brush off World War III, but for some reason he doesn't. With great effort, he tears his eyes off her and swivels to me. Were you dipping? I stare at my sneakers. I guess. Mr. Kermit turns back to Miss Fountain. You look just like your mother. She smiles. I'll take that as a compliment. To me, she says, you should apologize to your classmates, too. You wasted their learning time as well as your own. Sorry, I mumble, about the learning time. Relax, Raheem drawls. Who learns? Thank you, Mr. Kermit, Miss Fountain says uncertainly. I'll give my mother your regards. She backs out of the room, shutting the door quietly behind her. Weird lady, Burnstorm puts in, waving a crutch dismissively. All that bucket filler stuff? Like we're 6 years old. Hey, Mr. Kermit shoots him a sharp glance. Miss Fountain is not weird. She's a teacher. Can't she be both? Raheem wonders out loud. Kiana won't let it drop. She's not just bossy, she's nosy too. And the combination makes her like a bloodhound. What gives, Mr. Kermit? What's the deal with you and Miss Fountain? For the first time all year, he actually looks annoyed. Did I or did I not distribute worksheets? A paper airplane does a loop-the-loop in front of him. There's a chorus of ribbits, including one from Elaine that sounds like it came from the underworld. Parker chimes in. Face it, Mr. K, you've barely looked away from your puzzle since school started. But the minute she shows up, you hit the ceiling. She's your kryptonite, Mateo puts in. Kiana snaps her fingers. It's her mom, right? You and Miss Fountain's mother used to be a thing. Mr. Kermit, who couldn't even be riled by a roaring bonfire in his wastebasket, picks up his crossword puzzle, rips it into a million pieces, stomps on them, and stalks out. Even though I can't stand the guy, at that moment, I actually relate to him a little bit. He may be the worst teacher in the world, but we have something in common. He has anger management problems, too. That's it for today, friends. Have a great weekend. Bye.